Okay, welcome back, I suppose. As promised, here's gonna be basically my life story so far, and I guess I'll just try to do without a script this time, because like the intro video was very choppy. That was, for some reason, that was extremely difficult for me. So I'm gonna try to do it just like off the cuff, and yeah, I'm probably gonna leave a lot out, not on purpose, but just because it's always pretty hard to. I always had like a hard time talking about it for myself. I'm much better if I get asked questions. So basically, that's kind of why I'm doing this, so you can have a basis for your questions, and then we'll just take it from there. So in essence, my childhood in Bavaria, Lower Bavaria, very nice region, was actually pretty normal, pretty happy, I suppose. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Well, it felt that way at least. Went to school, had a lot of good friends. Yeah, kindergarten was normal. I played football a lot. I was extremely like thirsty for knowledge, if you want to guess that's a good word for it. Like I just devoured like documentaries, especially about history. Lots all that good stuff. Yeah, played football, tried lots of different things. Loved nature, loved animals. So pretty standard stuff, basically. But what I didn't know back then, that's not quite normal, it was that basically my mother was bipolar. And that meant that she was like I don't know, in the beginning I think it's like every 2-3 years or so. It's basically when she got worse. Then she had to go to the hospital for a couple of months, and then I didn't see her. And just because of that, just because of her illness, she couldn't really be like there for me. Like, I don't think I've ever had really a proper bond with my mom. It's like she was there, but not really present, if that makes sense. So I guess that's like the beginnings of my troubles, so to say. But that's something I only noticed like way later in my teens, or even like early 20s. Yeah. Basically, for me that was just normal. Like, for example, I have an uncle who sits in a wheelchair. I have a cousin with disabilities, which I'm perfectly honest. Like he has a speech impediment and learning disabilities, and probably some other things. But I never actually really know what he's got because I never asked. Because for me, that's normal. It's just my cousin. I don't care. So I guess in that sense, it actually is kind of positive because I don't look at him with like this disability. I just look at him as my cousin, and that's something that I kind of kept in general for basically all people. So I don't really have like these, what do you call it in English? Like I'm not afraid of these disabilities or anything. But basically, okay, let's continue the story. Then what's the first big break? So basically, after elementary school, that was a pretty happy time, I'd say. Lots of good friends, lots of activities. But then came the break. Like I was like the second best in my year, but I never really studied anything. I just basically had like this basic kind of knowledge and lots of potential, which got to waste. But well, doesn't matter now. But I always knew that I always was pretty lazy, and I already knew that, and I never felt like I wanted to have like a desk job. I always wanted to do something with my hands, so I decided to go to the Realschule, which is like, I guess, middle school. It's just like, because like basically the consensus at the time was you go to the gymnasium, which is like no, I think high school is the one after that. But I don't know, the highest thing pre-university, basically. What you would get if you want to study and do like higher education stuff. And I always wanted to do practical things, so I went to Realschule. That decision kind of threw my entire friendship circle out of bounds. So I basically just pretty much lost like 90% of my old friends, probably more. And then I swapped them over for the Realschule friends. Around that time, that's like probably with like 11 or so, my dad got ill. He has we've got a blood defect on his family side, which I've inherited, but in like a weaker form. It's basically just I have a higher risk for thrombosis, which means that basically when your blood clots, for me the stuff that makes it go liquid again isn't as effective, so it takes a lot longer. So I have a higher risk of those blood clots blocking up my arteries, and that's a thrombosis basically. And if you get it in your brain, it's a stroke. If you get it somewhere else, it's a thrombosis. Yeah, basically he got it in the liver, and I'm looking for the English word for Mills. I currently forgot, but doesn't matter. Another organ similar to the liver, and basically they just swell up, and if you would punch, and then he has to take like blood thinner. It's like called Marcomar. It's probably pretty international medication. Basically that means if someone punches him in the stomach, he will bleed out, and there's like a 95% chance that he wouldn't make it, even if like he had blood clotter at hand. So he had to give up his job, which was at a special needs school where he taught, I think, German history and music. So he had to give that up. That's like the one of the last true times where I really felt proper fear that something would happen to my dad, and like be afraid for his life, kind of. Like I never really had that with my mom because that was normal, even though it wasn't normal, but it felt normal. So so that was a pretty big blow to me. And like I always loved to fight with my dad, so I couldn't do that anymore. Like, you know, like fight for the remote control and stuff like that. So I loved doing that, and now I couldn't do that, for example, anymore. For example, and that was like my dad always, with the troubles of my mom and everything, he always is like a very rational person, which also has to do with his upbringing, but that's his story to tell. So he wasn't cold, or like both of my parents aren't cold, but they're very like yeah, sachlich in German, very rational people, let's put it that way. So they're not very overbearing with emotions, so I guess I never really learned how to deal with them. But they're very supportive, and it's very important to them that, like me and my sister, for example, always follow our dreams and basically just do what we want and don't let anything stop us. And they will always support us, and I'm extremely grateful for that. The problem for me in that equation was always that I've never really developed a proper desire for anything. Like, I don't know, I never really had dreams, or better said, the dreams I had I kind of lost. Kind of wanted to do like this, I wanted to be an actor when I grew up, especially with my interest in history, just like play at all these amazing stories from the past, and like just fantasy and everything else. I was like a really big Lord of the Ring nerds in my teens. Yeah, basically, but I never really had this desire to be anything great or like do anything for myself. Like, it's always hard to really define it, but I just gradually lost interest in my own life. Another big part of that was probably my sister moved out when I was 11, and she was only 16, but she moved together with her boyfriend at the time, but not at the time, they're still together actually, which I find quite impressive. So that worked out. But that's another example of my parents are always very supportive of us. There were a lot of conditions for her to fulfill to be allowed by our parents to move out with 16 to the other end of Germany. Well, again, her story to tell, but basically that left me alone with my parents. And then like, I don't know, we never really that, but like we really never talked about our parents that much, or like basically about all the problems that we have or something, but still she was there, and like we were not the tightest of brother and sister, but we still loved each other. So I kind of basically she kind of moved out of my life, and so she doesn't want to get hassled all the time by her little brother. She kind of got on with her own life, and I just tried to do the best that I could. But yeah, that was like the time where I just gradually lost interest in pretty much a lot of things that used to fulfill me, and I never quite gotten that back in my life, I think. And basically it just got worse, and then I went to, after Realschule, I didn't really know what to do with myself. I didn't know what kind of, like, as I said, I wanted to be like a craftsman or something to do with my hands. But then I was always pretty good at school and like lots of wasted potential, and then you think, okay, if I don't use that, I'm just gonna waste it. So let's get the Abitur, which is like the GCSE and stuff, so that I can get a higher education. So I just have that in a bag. It's always better. So I went to the Fachoberschule, which is like you can always, in Germany, it's very nice that you can always, no matter what your scholastic background is, you can always move up the ladder, you know? It's gonna take time and effort, but you can do it. You're not bound to your degree in that sense. So I basically did that. At that time I was really interested in psychology and psychiatry. Basically I started noticing that something's not quite right, and maybe doing that would help me. But then I did that because one of the courses was pedagogy and psychiatry. No, psychology, sorry, not psychiatry. Psychiatry is medics, drugs, basically. Anyway, yeah, basically wanted to go that direction, try and figure out what's wrong with me, but I've quickly learned that that entails the most hated aspect of any scholarly education that I have, and that's like learning stuff by heart. So basically, if you don't know, you have like these definitions and you have to learn them by heart. There's no two ways about it. You have to learn them by heart, and then you apply them to your case. And I hated that. Like, if you get one word wrong, you basically mess up your entire exam, just because you don't have that completely with that. And then you have like, there's a lot in there, obviously. So I kind of got away from that quickly. So then I was always interested in other cultures, and as I said, history. And at that point, I thought, okay, that's probably like my last shot at doing something decent with my life, and basically applied for the University of Aberdeen. And I thought like living abroad would be pretty nice for me, which it was very nice. But basically, I just wanted a new clean start. See if hoping that helps, as you do. Just, I guess a lot of people in similar situations always think like, okay, we're gonna have this break here, and then it's gonna get better. I tried that a lot, as you will see. So basically, I went to Aberdeen. I studied anthropology and history with, and the nice thing is you can also study like some side stuff. So I opted in for archaeology as well for the first year, and Arabic as well. So I met a lot of amazing friends there. I had a really wonderful time, especially in the first year. Really, probably one of the last times where I like was momentarily happy for a period of time. But then like the problems just they keep creeping back, and that's the big issue with depression and most likely other illnesses as well, is they come back. If you don't face them, they will haunt you for the rest of your life, and they will get worse every time you try to run away from them. So basically what happened is I did my first year, that went by okay. I started to noticing, okay, when I write these essays, it's getting hard, because basically what happens is I kind of start to question myself, what am I even doing here? Like, why am I doing this? For whom am I doing this? And like just lots of really self-destructive thoughts. That end up in you basically just shutting down in a sense. So I always like pushed my essays back way hard. Like I had massive amounts of time. I tried to get on them early, but I never could really grasp them. And then you basically just end up, okay, like in the first year I still managed to write something down, and like get my little essays published about, I think, Neanderthals and some other things and Viking era. So basically just scratched that, and then in the second year it got pretty tough. I think I dropped out in the second year, or like halfway through, if I remember correctly, because I noticed it was just getting worse. Essentially, what happens if you sit in front of your task, and it's like if you have a computer program that you know 100% will freeze on startup, and it's just really patchy, and at some point in the first couple of minutes it will freeze. So you basically just get like a couple lines done, you try to focus, and you basically just stare at your textbook for hours and hours, and basically not, like, you read it 5 times and you're basically not processing anything, and you just shut down. And at the time I really couldn't handle that, so I basically stopped uni then. Tried to do a new start with basically a job. I worked in a amusement park in Aberdeen, and that was a pretty good time again. I was like a what's it called, a ride instructor, I think. It's basically just getting people off and off the rides. And like my favorite probably was the whitewater rafting, where I had to pull up people in the carts because the belt was loose, but I was like the only one willing to do it, because you had to pull like every cart when it gets stuck up to the next belt. And like for some reason everybody else was totally done after 20 minutes, and I just did it all day without really many issues. Anyway, I digress. So basically I tried to got a new house, like a new flat. And then I worked in the kitchen afterwards, and once the winter break started, and I stayed there for like I think I stayed at that amusement park for a little bit more than a year. I want to say more than a year. But basically then, at this point I knew I wasn't going anywhere. Like, I knew if I could do the job, I was good at it, but I knew I would basically just work away my life for not much gain. I wasn't getting rich with that. I wasn't really going anywhere. I wasn't particularly happy. Didn't really have like a relationship or anything that would like make sense to me for why I would keep doing that. Not for lack of trying. I just got a lot of baskets, as we say in Germany. I just got rejected, basically. Anyway, then I moved back to my parents, trying to sort my life out once again. There's a real theme here. And I basically just fell apart entirely. It just completely unraveled. I tried to get like jobs in the first couple months. I tried to like just find any kind of interest. I wanted to make like fancy chessboards or something and sell them, and like just lots of wacky ideas. Or like just find even like just some job, like waiting a table or something. And I couldn't find any in the first couple months, and then I basically just completely shut down. And basically that pretty much went on for 3 years. That was probably the darkest time of my life. It's like it's such a blur. Like to me, like now looking back, it's just amazing how far you can let yourself go, just what kind of holes you can fall. Like I stopped trying for months on end, and then I tried to pick myself up a couple of times. We had a lot of trouble with my grandparents, like not trouble, but like my grandparents were very ill. Oh, I'm sorry, that was probably pretty loud. Yeah, like my grandparents were ill, so we had to drive up there a couple times to like help them, and lots of other things. Basically, they passed away after 2 years, I think. So that's kind of kept me busy. Then my mom got like lung cancer, and they had to remove like half one of the lung flaps. I think the left upper one, and the rest of the lung wasn't doing that great because she was basically a lifelong smoker. And so she had to go, she now needs 24/7 oxygen supply. And basically like in the last year I basically helped with her, took a little bit care of the household. I wasn't not doing that much. It sounds more impressive than it was, I guess. But I basically was taking care of her, like helping in the household. That got me a little bit back on track. Like I started cooking for my family. Yeah, stuff like that. And that time I basically just played PC games. tried streaming like back in the day as well, just to get like some semblance of order in my life. All didn't work out because at that point I still wasn't really like, I started to know that I have depression and I'm not going anywhere and I need help. But for some reason I couldn't pick myself up because I basically just didn't want to. If I would admit that, my line of thinking was basically that my mother would fall back into it as well, and like have like guilt trips for my mom that it's her fault, and like not stupid stuff like that, but you know, it's not stupid, but it's not gonna help you either if you don't, because first of all, my parents basically probably already knew. It's what happens when you spend 3 years at home not going anywhere. That I had big troubles, and like I think it took me 2 years. I actually can't quite remember when I admitted it to my parents. I think it was after like a little bit more than 2 years at home that I started to need help, and I basically then started to seek help as well. But in Germany you have like very long waiting lists, so basically if you're not suicidal, you're gonna have to wait quite a long time. You'll get like a preliminary interview, and then you're gonna be on a waiting list, which is, I think the shortest I've ever been on is a half a year. I did get eventually some help, but it didn't really get me anywhere, at least not at the time. But yeah, another big thing is one of the reasons I didn't want to tell my parents is basically like, my dad told me when I was like, I can't remember, like 17, 18 or something, that my mom basically, they tried to have 5 children, basically my mother was pregnant 5 times. She lost her first child, then my sister came, she lost 2 more, and then I came. And that's the point in her life when she started to have like depressions and became that bipolar. By the way, I've cleared it with my parents. They're okay with me talking about that, which I'm very grateful for. And basically during that time, my dad said that she had a suicide attempt. She still has like a scar on her neck, which I don't know, like I always kind of I didn't know, I don't think I ever realized it. Nah, okay, well, I digress. Basically, and I was like afraid that she'd try it again. The good thing about that was that during my darkest times, basically my impression was that the suicide attempt was between my sister and then losing the next 2 children, then the suicide attempt, and then me. So basically my kind of thinking was, okay, I'm in a really bad spot. I have suicidal thoughts and I kind of don't want to live, but on the other hand, I did have a good childhood. There were still moments in my life that I enjoyed. And basically, if my mother would have succeeded in a suicide attempt, I would have never been born. So my thinking was, if I kill myself, I'll basically deny my offspring, so to say, any chance of having the chance of a good life, even though the risk is like, because like depression can be genetic, it probably is genetic with me. Anyway, that my children would lose any chance of having a good life, if that makes sense. Like, even though they're not even born or anything, I still basically, if I kill myself, I deny them that chance. I guess it makes sense on some level. So basically, that was one of the big things where I think I was, I don't know, 19 at the time, where I really started to really fall into those suicidal thoughts. And basically that was the thing where I said, okay, if she would have succeeded, I would have never been born. I still liked some of my aspects of my life. I swear to myself, I'll never kill myself, because that will deny my children any kind of life they even any kind of life, basically, even the good bits. So basically that was kind of, and once I take like I try to take my promises very serious, and everything I swear I take very seriously. So basically I swore to myself I'll never kill myself, because that will deny my children any prospect of life. Duh. Makes sense. Good. Basically, since then, I still have, I still occasionally have suicidal thoughts, much less in the last couple of years, since it's gotten better. But in my darkest times, I had a lot of those. Yeah, so basically, that's basically not really what kept me alive, but a big part of why I basically, when I get to that point, I always remember that promise to myself, and I basically I'm able to stop thinking about it in a weird kind of way. Like, I still think about it, but I know I'll never do it. That kind of way. Okay, so anyway, that out of the way. Where were we? Oh yeah, basically the 3 darkest years of my life, and then comes basically I was always on the search for something that sparks any kind of interest in me. I was just hoping that, okay, if I can just find something that grips me and that I can, like, a little bit of passion in it that I can latch on to and then basically jump to it. And my parents were looking out for that as well, and I was trying like a couple of different things. I can't even quite remember, but basically one day I remembered, okay, my parents have my mom had an old sewing machine in the cellar, and I basically dragged that out, and then I made a really, really, really ugly curtain out of an old t-shirt, just for like shits and giggles. And then I thought, okay, I always have like trouble finding fitting clothes. I never really like the fashion that's out there. It's like I'm a really lanky bastard, if you want. So very thin, very tall. So everything is a bit saggy and wide. So I thought, okay, maybe there's something in there, and it was something to do with my hand, something I always wanted to do. So my dad basically latched onto that and searched the first best school available, which I've actually enrolled in, and I was in there now for 2.5 years. I still am enrolled, and I'm very happy with that decision. And during that time also I started to try to deal with my depression better. But I was basically, once I moved here, I was on a new waiting list and stuff like that. Also, you let things slack as well. Like, once you change, you always promise yourself, okay, you're gonna immediately call the doctor and put yourself on a waiting list. I didn't do that for a year. That's a recurring theme. It's just like anything that benefits yourself. I'm sorry. Anything that benefits yourself basically just takes a back seat, and you just push it back and back and back because I'm so busy. I'm busy with school and stuff. Okay. Anyway, you get the point. So now I forgot where I was. Oh yeah, I was really happy. Like, I've done my first 2 years of fashion school. Basically, I'm here enrolled to become a tailor and a fashion designer. That's 2 courses, but they're all enrolled in one, and then they're like modules that I can enlist in. It's a private school, so it was not cheap, let's put it that way. So I basically went for the American system, where I just live on credit at the moment, and my parents help. Which basically I always never wanted to leech off my parents. So when I came back from Scotland, I told my parents, okay, please write everything down that I'm spending, so one day I'll pay you back. And I'm still holding myself to that. That's a very big point of my self-worth, that I will pay my parents back if I can double. It's probably a pretty big car by now. But yeah, there's basically that's also something that kind of kept me not alive, but another reason to live, let's put it that way, is just paying off my debts for everything good that happened to me. Anyway, so I was very happy with the things. Like, as you can see in the back, that's things from the last year I did. That's my first coat. That's was a practice piece that I just turned into a waistcoat for like a an open lapel. This t-shirt is like completely handmade. That's a prototype for my channel that I've been planning for probably 1.5 years now. As again, the recurring theme, pushing things back. That's a prototype for like a completely handmade t-shirt that I will show you how to do soon-ish, hopefully, in the near future. And I have like a couple other things made. So I figured I'm not the best, but I do have talent for it. It's like the recurring theme in my life. I'm always good at things, but I'm not an expert, and I can never quite retain all that knowledge, even though it's not that hard. Anyway, that's a different topic for a different video. But I still had like trouble being here. I found great friends here. The school was pretty solid. I enjoyed it, but it was getting quite a lot. Like I'm not very, what's it called? As soon as you burden me, I kind of fold, which is a very big problem in my life. Even though it's not that hard, I make it big, you know? Just like I make it way bigger than it is, and it basically just, you blow it up until it presses down on you. And then you just shut down again, just like at uni. And basically, I noticed it was getting worse in the second year. I was always very open about it now, since I came here. Basically, everybody who knows me a little bit better and the school knows as well that I have depression, and I do struggle with it. So, okay, after at the end of last year, I noticed it was really, really starting to get worse again. So, basically, the last holidays before the big break, I said, okay, I think I'm falling into the same trap again. I need therapy. And basically, I just then went to a 2 months therapy and close to my parents. And that did help me. It unearthed a lot of things, especially about my mom. We were always pretty distant, and that's not normal. Like a lot of those things came out in that therapy. And it really did help me. And at the beginning of this year, I was feeling pretty good about my chances. And I think I was doing well up until Christmas again. But then there was the big, we have a fashion show basically for the end of when we graduate. There we go. And I'm currently still in road, and they gave me the opportunity that I still can do it, but I'm not sure if I can. But basically that thing, I blew that thing up. I wanted to start early. I had plans. I made it, when do I start what? It's like a pretty big folder, but it's technically not that hard to do. It's a lot, but it's not amazingly hard. And I know I could have done it. I'm pretty shit at drawing and like that aspect of fashion design, but I know I could get a passing grade. Basically, that's what I'm that's what I'm going to take away from here. Basically, that's like your grade for half year. And basically last month I noticed, okay, I'm shutting down entirely again. I don't know why. I'm trying my best. I've tried many different things. I've tried to do it on my own. I tried to do it in the school. I tried to do it with friends. I've tried to do it like with telling my friends when I do what. And just like, then it always works like a little bit, but just not enough. And then basically just a couple of days for the deadline, and you know you're not gonna make it. So at that point I thought, okay, what the fuck do I do? So essentially what ended up happening is I talked to my psychiatrist that I've been with since November. I've talked to my parents. I talked with the school. And basically my current plan is that I've tried to pull up this YouTube channel. And I know it's going to take a lot of time until a YouTube channel gets going, or until it blows up, or if it even takes off. Maybe I'm just dead on impact, dead on arrival basically. But that's the thing I'll just have to find out. So we'll see how that goes. It's basically your job to not let that die. If I put that burden on you. But no. Anyways, basically I want to try this YouTube channel, and it's like I've been working on this for like the last month, and I always put it off again, but I think I'm now finally ready to really get going with it. And as you notice, like compare this to my intro video, it's a lot better. Like yesterday after that intro video, I sat on that for like 5 hours. You're probably gonna see how from the beginning to the end it gets darker and darker because the sun went down. And there's gonna be a lot of edits in that because I tried to write a script, and I tried to keep myself to that, and even just reading off that script, or basically just iterating it down was for some reason so tremendously hard, even though it was basically nothing. It's just a description of what I'm planning on. And as you can see, it's a lot better now. I can speak freely like this. And I'm actually getting my point across, which I'm kind of surprised by. I do still ramble a lot. Okay, let's stop the rambling. But it's a lot better. So you have got that comparison. So if I can keep improving, I will. And I'm always happy for critique and everything. Anyway, where are we now? So basically, at the moment, I want to try to push this YouTube channel, get as far as I can with that in the next half year. I'm still enrolled in the school, but I'm not gonna basically go to school. I'll try to redo the entire year. Probably not next year. I don't think I'll make it. But probably the year after. So I'll try to get one of my 2 degrees done then. And until then, I want to try to build up this YouTube channel, figure out why I shut down so frequently, even though it's things that I really enjoy. Even though I struggle with acknowledging my feelings and like really living them. I'm gonna come back to that in a second. But basically, I want to try to find out and not cure it, because depression is, you learn to live with it more than you cure it. It's one of the big things you have to learn when you're afflicted with that. Maybe there are people out there who are cured, but I think they're in the minority, and a very small one at that. Anyway, basically, I want to push up this channel. I'm gonna get a part-time job until the summer, and then see if I can make this YouTube and streaming dream work. And if I can get any semblance of like just a little bit of money that supplements a part-time job to keep me going, I basically need to, because I need to start paying back loans in the autumn, so I need to get up to like, I think something in the area of 1,400 euros a month, 1,600. It should be doable if it goes well. But if it doesn't go well until the end of summer, I'm basically just gonna have to go full-time for a bit, save up some money so I can finish my degree. So basically that's the plan. Currently do not have yet a job. I've been trying, but I wasn't really 100% behind it. And the big problem is I got basically not a job offer, but I applied somewhere and they said, okay, they're selling. And at the start of the 1st of March, you should come back, because then the new guy is there. So I'm ashamed to admit, but I think I will wait for that. And if I don't get that one, I'm gonna keep properly searching for decent jobs, because at the moment I need something that's very low effort, or basically something rather brain dead. I can't really put any big responsibility of myself, which is funny, because the job I want is basically just driving medication for a pharmacy. So it's basically just like driving out pizza, just with a little bit more responsibility, because if people don't get their meds. But that's like the kind of responsibility I can take. But like lots of human interactions, like a waiter or something, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. I think I'm digressing again. But yeah, I think that's basically where we are now. I hope it goes I hope it's gonna go somewhere. I probably left out a hell of a lot in my life, but I think that's a good basis now for you to start asking questions or share your story. Because that's basically the idea of my channel. Like it's less about the things I want to do, because like I still struggle a lot with doing things for myself, and like the one thing that actually got me going the most, I think, in my life is helping others. I don't go out of my way too often to help others, but for example, during uni I did UNICEF and stuff like that. But basically it's the one thing I might be able to get my ass up to actually do something, and depending on the response I will receive with my first couple of videos, I hope it gets somewhere. Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm gonna cut it here in terms of my life story. You got the gist of it. One big thing I wanted to mention still is I want you to think about, I can't only speak for my depression. I think depression comes in very many different forms and phases. But for me, it was never about like I think the common misconception is still, oh, I'm just feeling sad, I'm like worthless, and oh, what am I gonna do? It's just like everything is bad. It's like, for me, it was never like that. My depression is more like complete and utter. I forgot my English again. I just didn't care about anything, not about me, not about my parents, even though I still did care, but I didn't acknowledge it, because basically what happened in my youth, I just shut off basically all my negative feelings, and because I never learned how to deal with them. And then in my teens, it started to do that same mechanism when things went wrong with my dad and stuff. That just jumped on the positive side as well, and basically it shut that down as well. So with time, it just got worse and worse, and basically you're just an empty hull at some point. You just sit there, you can stare at a wall for hours and not feel anything. The amount of times I've just vegetated basically for days is, looking back, very, very scary. And it still happens, not too regular, but I still have a couple of days in a row. For example, last week, where I really wanted to get going with the channel and stuff, I only managed to do so by Friday. But basically, Tuesday to Thursday, I couldn't do anything. I was just basically vegetating and feeling sick because I think I cooked something wrong, and then you just watch YouTube all day and just try to think like, yeah, tomorrow I'll do it. I did manage to get like at least, for example, I went shopping. Okay, now we're getting a bit long here. But basically for me, the big thing is my depression is more about not feeling anything, or it used to be not feeling anything, nothing positive, nothing negative. You just kind of let everything just, you're basically bulletproof to any kind of emotion, whether it's positive or negative. So you just kind of sit there and think, okay. So that happened. So for example, my grandpa died. I didn't feel anything. I was like, and you always beat yourself up about it in the end, because like, okay, I should be reacting to that. My mom is sick. Why am I not scared? Why am I so heartless? Am I an asshole? It's like, you really, and then that just like really just festers in you. But yeah, I think we got a good starting point. The way I'll handle questions for now, I think, is you can ask them in the YouTube comment sections. You can go into Twitch, Twitch TV/TheMadHat with like underscores between the words. I'll put a link in the descriptions and everything, obviously. If you want to talk to me like in a more direct manner, Twitch is probably at the moment the best option. There will be a Discord. Once the thing gets going a bit, I'll probably open up a Discord channel where I'll pop in a couple of times a week. So if you want to just have like a direct conversation, or are not comfortable on sharing your life story or questions on YouTube, and I'll probably try to make a system where you can comment on where you put like a letter at the end for like at the end of your comment, where you say make a C if you want me to comment directly on the YouTube video. Press a Y, type a Y for like a YouTube response in the next video, and probably an A for if you want your name set. Basically, an A stands for anonymous, and then your name will not be mentioned, for example, when I read out the question. Yeah, I'm gonna put. I think I'll do it the way that I'll answer the questions at the end of my videos. The nice thing for example, my gaming videos, it will serve as an anti-spoiler screen, so you can't really tell the match length by the video length. Yeah, and I think lots of fun stuff coming up. I can't, at the moment, I'm really just trying to get everything in order, so I can't promise a regular schedule. I'll just, at the moment, for this month, I'll try to do as much as possible. Once I'll find that job I really need, I'll try to sort a proper schedule out, and I hope to God or the gods, which I don't believe in, that I can make myself keep to it. But I hope you're understanding about if I sometimes will have, I will have bad days, I will have bad weeks. There's no doubt about that. I'll probably doubt myself again. I'll probably just try videos and just throw them in the can because I think they're trash. But I basically I think I'm gonna try to just like push videos out for now, no matter how good or bad they are, just to like illustrate you the facets of my state, if you know, like the good and the bad times. So you kind of get like a glimpse of how it is. You're not gonna get the full picture just through that, but anyway, that's the plan. I hope I didn't forget anything. As I said, comment, like, subscribe, blah blah blah, YouTube shenanigans. You know how the algorithm works, most of you, I guess. I hate to do this self-promotion stuff, but I guess if I want to make this thing a success, I actually have to do it. Yeah. If you never watch another video of mine again, I hope you have an amazing life. I wish you all the best. I hope you're never in the situation that I am, or that I was, and that I am, and probably also will be. But yeah, let's just make this world hopefully a better place, and maybe I'll see you next time. I hope I can make some content that you are interested in too. And as I said, it's going to be a mess of a channel, but we might split the channel up later down the road. But for now, we're going to keep it under one roof, just so the community sticks together, that people with different interests, from tailoring to code to my news channel, that they basically just conglomerate, and that you get like different aspects of different people. Because like depression is everywhere. It doesn't matter which profession. So I hope we can build a good community, and then we're just going to take it from here. Yeah. That's enough rambling for me. I have no idea how long this is. I just hope it's long enough, and I hope everything recorded properly, because I don't think I can do this again. And I'll see you around. Bye bye.